So, just wanted to talk to you about a little tactic that's really, really good this time of year. So, because the carp are starting to feed, also the silverfish are. Now, up and down the country, there's loads and loads of venues that have got a good head of silverfish. Big roach, skimmers, lots of eyed. Now, a great way of fishing this time of year is to fill in your sort of blank spells. So you normally have a good start and a good finish down the edge or shallow or whatever you want to do. But that middle part of the match, you can really do some damage filling in your blank spells. So these silverfish, we're going to show you how I'd go about targeting them and how you can sort of use as a throwaway line to fill in those gaps, but also catch a few F1s and carp in amongst them as well. So we're going to be using the old humble maggot. So we're using humble maggots and light rigs, and we're going to show you how we go about catching roach eyed with an odd F1 thrown in to fill in those gaps to keep that net ticking over. So as we said, we're going to be throwing maggots to try and catch these silverfish, but these are the killer bits, the rigs. Now we've got 2 rigs set at different depths. We're going to be trying to catch these fish shallow. We would have a deck rig on the bottom as well to try and catch a few better fish later on, but hopefully for these eyed, roach and an odd F1, shallow fishing is the way to catch them quick. Now I got a nice light 10 to 12 crazy hollow elastic. The main line is 018, and that's the classic power again. Nice, strong and durable, but light enough to let these little light floats fall through the water. Now, I'll just show you this one. Both floats are exactly the same. So I've got a nice little sort of slim float there with a 1mm bristle on it. And I got strung out number 12s, evenly spaced, 4 of them down the line to a 4-inch hook length with a 16 F1 pellet hook, nice sharp hook. Now what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to feed maggots out of my hand at a sort of nice close range. So sort of 5 or 6 meters. I'm looking to feed that, build it up. So I'd be fishing in a match or early in the session, I'd be fishing for sort of carp and F1s, or maybe pellets or shallow or a little method feeder, whatever you want to do, and feeding this line and just priming it for when those lines sort of die. So just keep throwing a few maggots out there, not loads and loads, but like sort of 10, 15 maggots at a time. Keep priming it, and then by the time your sort of lines start to die, you can drop on this line and you can have a real good spell of catching quality silverfish with an odd F1 mixed in. Now what that does, it keeps that net ticking over. Loads of times in matches, I've been fishing away, and 10, 15 pound is a massive difference in a match from coming in the frame or even winning the match. Now if you can catch 10, 15, maybe 20 pound in a short spell, doing this, it's a no-brainer for me, especially when the lake switches off. So I'm just going to show you what I mean now and show you the light rigs and how we're going about catching them. So just put a single maggot on, just hook through the point at the end, so there's plenty of hook point showing. I'm just going to go out. Now this rig here is set at about 2.5 foot. Now I've got one set up a bit shallower as well. I'm just going to throw some maggots. There you are, straight in. Little bite there. So I'm just flicking these rigs over and letting the float follow the weights through the water. They're very, very light floats. Like I said, there's a 1mm bristle on them. Nice and sensitive. Just allows that sort of, allows everything to sort of follow through the water. And normally you'd have to prime this line a little bit. We haven't really primed it yet, so I'm expecting it to be hard for a little bit until we sort of get it primed. And what I'm looking to do is just lay the rig over and let the sort of float follow the bait through the water. Now the more you feed and the more regular you feed, normally the more fish start to come up in the water. So what we're going to do is keep throwing. There we go. Now that there is not a silverfish. That's a rogue F1 or a carp, that is. But by sort of fishing light like this with maggots, you tend to catch a few rogue bonuses in amongst your silverfish. And at the end of the day, it's a great way for catching fish, and just keep ticking over that net. I mean, everyone knows that you can catch shallow and you can catch pellets short and, you know, down your edges late on. But until you're waiting for those things to kick in, it's all about filling those nets and just keeping them ticking over. You know, a lot of the times you go on places, and especially this time of year, they sort of switch off. And then when they switch off, it's normally the middle part of the match, sort of midday-ish. You have a bit of a lull. There's a nice little roach here. Just, you know, and these are a couple of ounces each. They're good little weight builders. There's plenty of hide in you, as well as roach and F1s. Be nice and quick, nice and efficient with these light floats. Just keep building your swim. The wind's a little bit of a nightmare to throw maggots, but it'd be the same if we was fishing a match, so I'm not going to moan too much. Have a little roach here. The more you sort of feed, the more you will get those better fish coming in. Just keep throwing maggots. I'm just trying to fish off the back end of the maggots. I think that's an hide. Yeah. Nice hide there. Nice hide there, look. So they're the sort of big weight builders that you're looking for. You can see now as I'm fishing and throwing bait and catching fish, you're sort of building your swim. Sometimes you can get up a little bit shallower than this. This is sort of like I said, 2.5 foot, 3 foot. Like sometimes you get them right up in the upper layers of the water. And when you get them up there, then you can sort of really do a weight. But it's still a little bit chilly today. It's not really warm. Yeah, that's another fish. Oh, foul up that one, I think. But good sign that there's a few fish sort of coming into the feed. Yeah, another one. So you swing everything like roach and hide and skimmers. If you can swing them, speeds you up a little bit, makes you a bit more efficient. Still fishing a single maggot. But these rigs are really, really important. You need them as light as possible and let them all sort of fall for the water nice. You don't miss as many bites off them using these light rigs, and they're really good for sort of letting everything fall natural for the water. There's another eye there. Now we're just plodding along, and as you can see already, you know, we've had that one sort of rogue F1 that's come in there. We've had a few hide, some roach. You know, we've probably had 3 or 4 pound, and maybe a bit more, 5 pound maybe. And we've not really sort of spent a lot of time on it. You know, it's a great way when you try to rest lines, or, you know, if you've got a sort of a shallow line and they've just gone off a little bit, you know, you want to give it a rest. This is a great line for resting your other lines while still ticking that net over. There's another fish there, a little red. And just keep plodding, and normally the longer you leave this line, the better it gets. So normally in a match, I sort of feed this for an hour or two before I go on it. But we haven't got that luxury today. We're just gonna quickly show you what you can do to maximise your sort of the weight in your fishing. You know, loads of times I've won sections down White Acres, and even won matches at places like Western Pools and places where you can catch hide and skimmers and things like that. Doing exactly this and just filling in the gaps for when I'm not catching F1s and carp. You tend to know sort of the weights that you need to win. So if you can catch sort of F1s and carp and, you know, a few silvers in between, you sort of guess what sort of weights you need. And if you can catch like 10 or 15, 20 pound, you know, some places I go, like White Springs is a good example. There's a lot of big skimmers in there, and you can fill in the gaps, catching big skimmers and those sort of venues. I've caught sort of 70 pound, 80 pound of silvers in a match, and then you know, 100 odd pound of carp, and you're close to 200 pound. Places like this, you know, these hide and F1s, sometimes you can get them going on the same lines. Now at the moment I'm still fishing that deep line, so normally they sort of give themselves away if they come a little bit shallower, and you can see a few swirls and stuff like that, and they sort of give themselves away where you can catch them. I've not seen any swirls yet, they're still quite deep down, which when I do see a swirl, I'll be picking that other rig up and going a little bit shallower and see if I can really make hay while the sun shines you. But you don't want to be You don't want to be fishing double maggots and stuff like that. You know, looking for better fish, because you just miss out on the fish that are actually in your swim. Just fish. Just fish a single maggot. It's a little hide again. You know, at the moment they're quite small, but the more you fish it, the more bait that goes in, the bigger the stamp get normally. So just keep going a minute. You haven't been fishing long. Now, great ways to feed and fish the back end of your feed. It's a great way of catching the better quality fish. I mean, you're starting to get in amongst a few eyed here now. I mean, that's good. 6 ounce, I would said. I mean, you catch them. Just keep it going. Don't be too sort of hasty with the loose feed. Don't want to be like, you don't want to be throwing loads and loads of bait in. Just want to sort of like feed, lay your rig in amongst that feed, and then hook a fish and feed, and just keep it going, sort of 10 or 12 maggots at a time, not loads and loads. A lot of fish sort of deeper down at the moment. They're always a little bit harder to catch the further down they are. And these silvers are the same as the carp and F1s, so eventually, once you've caught quite a lot of them, they will slow up and switch off the same as the F1s and carp. But you can use that as a great way to then go back on the carp rigs and try and catch them. So I'm just going to pick up my other rig. It's a little bit shallower, probably about 18 inches, 18 to 20 inch. I've just seen a little swirl then, so seen a little swirl, so I'm just seeing if anything's come up a little bit shallower. Sometimes you can catch those slightly better stamp fish. So that's what we're doing now, is just trying to catch those slightly better ones. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but on both rigs, I've got a little bit of a longer lash. So if you were like normal shallow fishing, for like F1s and carp, you'd normally have the shortest lash you could probably get away with, or whatever the fishy lets you. So with sort of eyed fishing and fishing for silvers, they don't like to come under the pole as much. They're not as aggressive. So you almost got to sort of be a little bit smarter and have a little bit longer lash to keep your pole away from the float. Don't want to be spooking them. Like you know, it is quite clear. It's not really coloured. There's a little bit of colour in it, but it's not chocolate. So just trying to keep a pole away from the float, or even flick the bait past. Just to give them a little bit more confidence. You know, smaller fish like that, so like sort of 4 to 5 ounce sort of fish. You don't even have to break down on. You can just ship the pole back and just strip on the elastic and then just lift them out. And then the bigger sort of fish you can net. You just keep swapping back and forth these rigs as you go in, because they will come up and down in the water. They seem to be a little tiny bit deeper than what I am. So catching most of my fish as it's going down to full depth. So I'm just gonna move that up a touch, only sort of 5 or 6 inches. See if I can catch a few of these fish a bit better. It's all about trying to find the depth that they're at. Started blowing a little bit. I think they've gone down a little bit deeper, so don't want to waste any time. If your catch rate drops for any reason, just pick up your rig and change it. No point messing around, you know, plodding along if your catch rate drops. If your catch rate drops, change. So there you are, guys, a lovely little tactic to fill in those gaps and get you those extra pounds that could get you into those frame places or even win the match. 25, 30 minutes fishing, catching big quality silvers like that. I mean, all these fish are quality. You can fill in those gaps, only fish for them for a short period of time, but catch enough fish to bump you up into those frame places. So follow our tactics, catch more silvers, fill in those spaces and become a match winner.